There I am. Hello, man. Hello, MGTOWs. Today we're going to talk about a difficult subject. Sound check. Hello, man. Hello, MGTOWs. There we go. Everything's in order. I had a difficult time finding you guys. It's difficult to get on with my subject. First they disallowed my thumbnail. Then they made it hard for me to get on. Why? Well, we're going to talk about some controversial subjects, some taboo. You're not allowed to talk about these things, but we're going to talk about them regardlessly. Hello, Father No. Hello, Red Pill Jack. Hello, everybody that finds this. You'll have to use your spotlight to find this MGTOW, this particular MGTOW conversation, because it's going to be censored, because we're not allowed to talk about it. I was going over fatherhood. I was thinking about fatherhood today. What is fatherhood? It's a term. It's just a term. It's just an analogy for someone that's going to take care of the children, because, well, we know the reasons for that. Politicians have declined to propose legislation over the last 40 years that would allow men reproductive rights. Allow men reproductive rights. Isn't that ridiculous? Me Too, my body, my choice, feminism, 40 years, 50 years of making these arguments. It's 2019. It's 1/19/2019. I can look back at all the articles that I see, and they're all stuck in my brain, and it all goes back to this same conversation. Will men be allowed reproductive rights? And that's what it's about. It all hinges on that word. We're going to talk about, I'll just read the low bar for you. If a man accidentally conceives a child, does a man really conceive a child? Her body, her choice. She opens that orifice, invites him in. But what happens there? You get two sister cells after the impregnation that copy the DNA. Does a man actually conceive a child? No, he doesn't. You are not a father. You are not a provider. You are not a slave. These things should be self-obvious in this 2019, but they're not. You don't conceive a child. She conceives a child. It's her child, 100%. That's what the state will tell you. In Dabai versus Wade, I think it was, Dabai versus Wells, the famous case in 2006. We're going to look into that today. The conversation of chivalry was brought up. Chivalry, is chivalry dead? Yes, it is. And it's not even important. It's a metaphysical concept, the same as fatherhood. Metaphysical concepts. What are we talking about here? We're talking about religious concepts. We're talking about ethical and moral concepts. We're talking about metaphysical concepts that you can't touch, you can't see. And for men, you can't even find. Back in 2006, the government tried to establish, some of the people in our citizenry tried to establish fathers' rights. For years, we've been trying to establish fathers' rights. It seems barbaric in these times that men don't have autonomy and control over their reproductive parts. That's what the laws were about. Her body, her choice. Roe versus Wade. That's what Roe versus Wade was about. But there's one thing that's missing: the pronoun men. Fathers. Fathers and men are not the same pronoun. Man is a genetic designation. A man. He was designated a male. A father is designated by the state. Whether he would be allowed to have reproductive rights will be up to the state, as in slavery. It's the same thing. The topic for today will be a touchy topic: fatherhood, forced fatherhood. What if you say you don't want to engage in that thing? What if you say you can't afford to do that? What if you say, I don't want to be a father? Will you be forced to be a father? Oh, yes, you will. Yes, you will. Let's shine a little light on this. In today's society, the same barbaric laws exist. Forced fatherhood for men. We disregard the rights that are endowed to us with our Constitution. We disregard the rights not to be a slave, not to go to debtor's prison, not to be chased and forced into providing for someone else that has low autonomy, low agency, and low responsibility and low accountability. What is equality? We ask ourselves. Equality is the same responsibility, autonomy, agency, and accountability, responsibility as each other. That's what equality is. Equality defines on equal barriers to resources. Now, when we look at Dabney versus Wells, almost 2006, almost 12 years ago. 12 seems like yesterday for me. The judge stated in that chivalry was not dead and it will be enforced. A metaphysical concept. Chivalry is not dead. He was censored. He was triggered. He was incensed that a male would say, I want my same reproductive rights. As a female, I want equality. I don't want unfair barriers to my future. I don't want to be strapped with unfair barriers to my future. I know what this is like. You know what this is like. Most MGTOWs know what this is like. Unfair barriers to our futures. Someone will make your financial decisions for you. The courts will make your financial decisions for you. You'll be forced into a run room. You'll be forced by society. You will be looked at as a lesser human being. We all know these things. Most of us have gone through them. A lot of us have gone through it. I wanted to take a look at some of these articles back from them days, and I wanted to take a look at what the attitudes of those things were. I put a thing in the low bar. I won't show them because I'll just read them to you. Matt DeBay and Lauren Wells was what we're talking about. Wells had broken up several times with her. She was pregnant. They were the polar opposites, which is not, in these articles, they'll use things like, oh, they were polar opposites. And their views on parenthood were polar opposite. He shares my view on parenthood. I'm not a father. I can't procreate. I can't do those things. I can't have a child. It's not my responsibility. I have autonomy over my body. Anything after that which leaves my body is simply theft or appropriation. If you go to the store and you buy a gallon of gasoline and you use it in your car, and you use that gallon of gasoline in your car, can you blame the oil people for you using it to get places? No. You used it. You bought it. That's the same thing as male autonomy. Once it leaves our body, it is no longer yours. Someone chose to use it. Someone chose to take accountability for the use of that. That's like saying if you buy a gallon of gasoline and you run yourself into a wall and you become injured, is it the gasoline's company fault that you got injured in that car? Is it the car's fault? No, it's your choice. You chose to use that. Appropriation is the same way. The legal battles came out in a high-profile case in 2006, Dabney versus Wells, Dubai, however you pronounce that, versus Wells. 25 years later, we're still 12 years later, we're still arguing this. The presiding judge at that time, and I don't know, I can't remember who it is, he said he made it about chivalry. If chivalry, he in his famous quote, chivalry is dead. It is viable and gravely imperiled by the plaintiff in this case, which was the male. In this case, it was the equivalent of Roe versus Wade for men. Roe versus Wade went through for men. We have the Equal Rights Amendment, which should reflect pronouns man, male, men, and boys. That's what Dr. Warren Farrell's trying to do. But some people are against that because they know one thing. Once we include men in equal rights, we'll have to argue Roe versus Wade for men. Roe versus Wade gave women the choice and control over their reproductive lives, but it admittedly did not for men, which is the very definition of inequality. Responsibility and inequality, accountability, all these words we throw around have meanings. The argument often went off on contraception, financial, mental, and physical. Forcing a male into financial, mental, and physical. Dr. Phil said, forcing the male into financially, mentally, and physically taking care of something is slavery, and I feel is not fair. There's an elephant in the room in these things. Oh, you could have used a condom. You could have done that. Them are all detractions from the original argument. Do men have reproductive rights? Once something leaves your body, is it like the trash? I would say it's like the trash. Once the trash leaves my house, it is no longer my property. I chose to put it out on the curb. And like I said, if I put a gallon of gasoline on the curb for disposal, and someone picks it up and puts it in their car, am I responsible if they run themselves into a wall? Especially if these people have the right to choose, the right to abort. Her body, her choice. We give all sorts of things. But men have none of those rights. A woman could choose her abortion. A woman could choose not to have it pre and after and while. Men have none of those. You can choose as a male, and I think it would be pretty responsible as a MGTOW male to use contraception and get those clipped. It's a small procedure that takes a half hour in a clinic. But what we're talking about here is financial abortion. What is financial abortion? It's easy to understand. I can't afford to have a child right now. In my life, if I did have a child, it would wreck my total existence. It would wreck everything. It would ruin everything. So I choose not to do these things. But many men have overwhelming drives to choose to do these things. But does it still make it responsible? Do they have to be chivalrous on these things? No, I don't think so. It's forced chivalry. Forced chivalry is wrong. Forced fatherhood is the same as rape. When you force a woman, if you forced a woman to have a baby and take care of that baby, that's what we're talking about. Our men are daily, by the hundreds of thousands, forced into fatherhood, forced to take a child, to give a child their name on a birth certificate by order of the court, not on decision of a male. No rights are had after that. You are forced into that. You're forced into that stuff. Let me take this time to say hello. Father No, Hetty, Silent Sage, Riff, Red Pill, financial chivalry. Yeah. What is financial chivalry? That's saying, if you don't do this, if you don't do this that I want you to do, even though I disallow your rights, we're going to thug you out. We're going to thug you out. Chivalry. Look at chivalry. What is chivalry? Chivalry was two men standing in a field shooting at each other because of honor. That's barbaric. It's from the 1700s. But still, in 2019, in the courts of America, men have these arguments between. It had nothing to do with the female. It had nothing to do with him arguing with her. Those pronouns. It had everything to do with him arguing with the state, the thug, the man of force chivalry upon you. And he will not also force chivalry upon you, he will force punishments upon you if you refuse. Two men standing in a field, armed. One man is not allowed to be armed. We look at all these concepts in MGTOW. The metaphysical gun in the room is arming one party, and it's arming. Who's arming the party? Who's arming that party? The court is arming that party. You as a male, you're not allowed to be armed. You're not allowed to be armed with those pronouns in the Equal Rights Amendment. No men, no fathers, no boys are mentioned. That's the equivalent of a no call. The equivalent of a no call in a sporting event. A guy runs up and he bam, knocks another guy. The referee looks at him and says, no call. I can't call it. Because he's got no number. He's got no designation. It's okay. No, it was never okay. It was an act of violence forced on him. It's equivalent to a no call. If a cop seen a robber shoot a man and said, I can't make a call because he has no number. He has no agency. That's what they say. It's a no call. He'd walk away, say, we can't do nothing about that. We can't do nothing about that. He's just a man. He has no rights. He has no rights. Show it to me. Show me the rights. What they're saying is show me the rights and the policies that lead up to our constitutional rights. That's what he's saying. And then he'll smile. And then you realize Varnick and Buchanan said, I can imagine myself at the top of a hill. And I take these poisons of silver and gold and I make a statue of myself looking at myself laying down on the top of a hill laughing at the world. That's what I feel like as a MGTOW sometimes. I'm a statue made of poison laughing at the world. Toxic masculinity. He tried to give us an idea. 2006 is a long time ago. 2006 is a long time to be looking in 2019. It seems like forever. It's half a lifetime for me, where men still don't have the same rights as women, the same financial rights, the same abortion rights, the same rights to choose. We can look at the autonomous male and the asexual male and the default position of sexuality in males. We can bring up all these topics as MGTOWs, the Me Too movement, all those things, but we won't listen, and we won't. We chivalry makes it so hard for blue pill men to listen to. Every day men are being raped, and at a certain point, I will agree. Hey, POV is rape for men. You're stealing. You're stealing a male DNA. But no, 2019 is still here, and we still have these conversations. It's barbaric. It's ridiculous, based on chivalry, based on a 2006 decision to buy Comrenst a personal, they say Badai Comrenst, a personal relationship with Lauren Wells, dated her, engaged in intimate sexual relations, impregnated her. He impregnated her. No, all agency in them statements are gone. It wasn't her decision to have a baby. Can a male's body have a May baby? No, a male cannot have a baby. You are not a father. It's her decision. Her decision to open it up. Was it rape? Did they charge him with rape? No. They blamed him for terminating the relationship. They shamed him. They said he sued for bearing his child. It's not your child. Not your child. You're not a father. Chivalry is not dead. That's what the plaintiff said. This was in Michigan. Paternity statuses. Paternity statuses are repugnant. Equal rights must be had for all, for equal rights to be had for some. If you're going to say women deserve equal rights, you have to have equal rights for all, or else it won't be for them either. It'll be for nobody. The court made a decision that day based on chivalry. It was 42 USC 1988, or back in 1988. She sued for attorney fees. Even complaining will get you a financial punishment. Even complaining will get you a financial punishment, and it will continue to punish you for the next 18 years. It is a punishment of chivalry. That's all it is. One man punishing another man. The thug court punishing a man for the irresponsibility of a person, another person, that chose to have a baby. Like I said, my body doesn't do those things. I can't have a baby. I cannot be a father. Instead of arguing this on the the evolutionary things and on the biological things, I simply can't have a baby. She can take a gallon of gasoline and put it in a car, but I am not responsible if she runs into a wall. That's what I'm saying. What I look at when I look at these things and I look at these judgments, I often get this picture in my head of men in burqas. Wear your burqa. Wear your burqa, man. You're not allowed to talk about that. You're not allowed to say that. When I started this stream up, it was very hard to get on. Men and women aren't equal. They're complementary. I don't care if they're complementary. That's two different arguments. Two different arguments. They're complementary under pair bonding laws, which are barbaric and not real. There is no electrical energy that goes between people. It's simply an idea. It's simply an idea. Pregnancy is simply the idea of duplicating DNA. And my body doesn't do that. Barbaric laws that don't include men in equality, Roe versus Wade, we'll argue this out. We'd like to re-argue Roe versus Wade and add the male pronoun. But even in our even in our community, we have men that argue against adding the pronoun of men and boys into the equal rights amendments that guide our policies. There's no such thing. I said it's a no call. There's no agency in men. There's no ability to make those decisions, they're saying. They are disallowing. Somebody else is disallowing your rights to make these decisions. They've disallowed you. It's barbaric. And they say there's this patriarchy. I don't know where it is. I forgot the check didn't come in the mail. I didn't get a notice of patriarchy. There's no patriarchy. There's no patriarchy at all. It simply boils down to the court disallowing your rights to reproductive rights. They'll disallow it. And that is inequality from the inception. I can't make a baby. I am not responsible for being a father. Every MGTOW will tell you this. My body doesn't reproduce. If I take the garbage out, it's no longer my responsibility. It's no longer my property. That's the same thing as the genetic DNA that was stolen from you. It's her choice to do that. 100%. Her body, her choice. That's what the laws tell us. When you go before a court, it's her child. And men have to wake up to this idea. There's no such thing as sympathetic pregnancy and chivalry. It's all a metaphysical concept that's benign. You buy into that and you buy into your own slavery. And it's designed purposely to enact slavery on you. You become responsible for someone that's not responsible. I would suggest that all men and all MGTOWs get them things clipped. Enable the ability to steal your genetic material. It's a 30-minute procedure, which the government won't pay for, which further is placed as a barrier. You think about that. We're talking about equality. We're talking about barriers to equality. Every legal person, every legal mind in the world will tell you what is inequality. Inequality is barriers to equality. What are some of the barriers that get put in place? Men's health care is a barrier. You'll have to pay for that your life. We don't have contraception for men short of if at some point during this process he put on a condom, that would be a legal argument. But the legal argument, as in Dubai versus Wells, was not looked at sensibly. At some point, did I say, no, my body, my choice. I do not want to have a child. I've said this many times over my life. I said, I don't want to have a child. I don't have children. I can't have children. And I don't believe in the metaphysical concept of chivalry. And I don't believe in the metaphysical concept of sympathetic pregnancy. That's all I'm saying. Do I get to enact my right to Roe versus Wade? Do I have a choice? No. It will be forced upon you by disallowing your rights. Someone will say, you are not allowed to financially abort. Now switch to genders. Switch to genders. Another human being. Let's talk about half of the human beings on this planet, a little over half, have the right, and 48% don't have the right. Is that a barrier to equality? Yes, it is. It was forced upon you, forced fatherhood. And in some cases, it is tantamount to rape. In most cases, it is tantamount to rape. Something being forced upon a female, and pregnancy being forced upon a female is rape. Penetration. They're going to penetrate your wallet. They're going to penetrate your rights. They're going to penetrate your equality. But those ideas don't exist in the society we live in. Should fathers have the right to financially abort? Yes, they should. Should fathers have the right to their own body? What was your body? That genetic material is your body. I want it back. I don't want it duplicated. I don't want it duplicated. Now, I know that's neonatalism. It can only be two things logically. Either I wanted it duplicated, and I will volunteer my services as in chivalry, voluntarily, not forced. It could be three things. Or I don't want it duplicated, hence I deny the right to use it, or it was stolen from me. And if I put it out in the garbage, like I said a million times, it is no longer my body. We've been searching around in the dark for 40 years now for male rights, for male equality, from the 1972 book Estevilla, The Myth of Male Power, to today in 2019, where we can't even get a court take to argue these subjects logically. And these things will be forced upon you, and you will be disavowed by society. You'll be put in prison, for debtor's prison. You'll be forced into fatherhood if you do these things. If you, hence, MGTOW. There's only one real. Get them things clipped. Say no, no more. Family courts are not valid. No, family, you know, a kangaroo, there's nothing more than kangaroo courts for thugs. They do away with due process. They do away with constitutional rights. They mock liberty. They mock liberty. That's what Roe versus Wade was about. Her body, her choice. Yeah, I believe that. But I want my body, my choice too. If my DNA leaves my body, I have three decisions. I can voluntarily be a father if I want. I can financially abort, or it's theft. And in any theft, I'm not responsible. It is a tribunal system where men are forced to say something that's not true. The public recantations. You will be forced to say that you can produce a baby. You can't. You're a male. You have no ability to do that. You're forced to take on delusional ideologies of fatherhood, sympathetic pregnancy. You have to be sympathetic. That's what chivalry is about. You have to be sympathetic. You have to lean in. You have to help. You have to donate. No, I don't have to. And that's what men need to start saying. No. In all this thing that we do, MGTOW is the personification of no. No more. I will not duel you I will not duel you in a fight of honor. I often talk about the book Southern Honor, the murder of men. That's what that is. The murder of men through honor. Because we haven't evolved enough. Most judges and most lawyers haven't evolved enough to even argue these cases. MGTOW is an evolution. It's not a revolution. It's an evolution of the male psyche saying he wants equality. He doesn't want these unfair barriers put in his path to his success. I want the same thing as they talk about. I want to experience this American dream on my terms that don't include a white picket fence and a pregnant wife. But fatherhood is forced on you as a male. Fatherhood, think about the word in general. What is fatherhood? It's a metaphysical concept of the protector provider. It's ridiculous. It's the same as religion. What they're saying is they're forcing their religion upon you, even though we have a First Amendment that says you can't have a religion forced upon you. It's the religion of chivalry. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Is it the same as then when I first moved into men's rights many years ago? It inflamed me. The anti-logic, the absurdity incensed me. And still 20, 30 years later, we have the same anti-logic. 2019. Back then in the 80s, we thought we were going to have flying cars. And we have technology that's abundant. We have computers and we moved on a little way. But in our laws and in our culture, in our norms, we haven't even budged a little. Matter of fact, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen that thing tail back, where we are devolving. The religion of the V. We should just start using the religion of the V. The gynocentrism. That's their first argument. Gynocentrism doesn't exist. Oh yeah, it does. Look at Roe versus Wade. Look at financial abortion. Look at the barriers that are put in place so men can't experience true autonomy in this world. Oh, no. They're not going to look at that. They're going to deny it. And it's just denialism. I often look at the denialism. Say, no, I'm not listening. I'm not hearing this. We've articulated our case over and over again over these last 40 years. But they'll say, no, no, no. It's all based on the religion of the split V. And you will be responsible. On the other hand, they say you don't have to be responsible for the 52%. You don't have to be responsible. It must be the 52% carries a greater demographic ability. You don't have to be responsible. We got slaves. 20-30% of all civilization is slaves, whether you believe it or not. That's what modern day slavery is about. The 13th Amendment, you can't be in prison with any form of slavery unless convicted of a crime, unless it's in family courts. Right, exactly, Red Pill Jack. In family courts, they will disallow your right to have constitutional rights. And it's barbaric. It's barbaric. Yeah, exactly, Buster. Women have rights, men have responsibilities. There's rights and responsibilities. They don't have accountability or responsibilities. You have that. It's barbaric. It's old. And it's wearing thin. And we have to evolve as people. I believe all people should have the rights to choose. I believe men and women should have the right to choose their futures. I didn't have that right. Did it inhibit the quality of my life? Yes. Did all the lies inhibit the quality of my life? Yes. Was I lied to? When the whole thing is based on lies and absurdity, and we're teaching children these lies and absurdities, pair bonding, family bonding. There's some magical link between us. Yeah, right. Not really. It doesn't exist. Can you be a father? No, you can't be a father. I'm sorry. It's just not true. Your body doesn't do those things. As soon as we accept that as men, as soon as we say, no, I can't be a father, I cannot produce a baby, my belly doesn't do that. And if you think that, and if you're one of those men that think that, and if you're experiencing sympathetic pregnancy, if you think that as a male, you are my enemy because you're too stupid to be MGTOW. You're too stupid to be a man. You must be something else. I don't know what I would define him as. The whole blue pill world thinks that. They're not evolving along with the rest of us. I think so. I think so, Cat Eddie. The Constitution died a long time ago with logic. I think it died with George Bolle. The Constitution died with George Bolle and his logic. You ever hear that story? How George Bolle died? I think I told you this. George Bolle was the father of logic. He was the father of mathematical logic. Everything runs to a true or it's not true. It's what I believe in. It's the principles that I take in my life. George Bolle caught a cold going to the University of Oxford where he taught. He came home and his wife determined that the logic was that if cold brought it on, then cold will take it away. And she dumped buckets of ice water over him. And hence killing him. Oh, the hypocrisy of that. The hypocrisy of that is just like, wow. Hey, did you bleed him? Jesus, the father of logic. God, died by an illogical thing. And the logic in that is so straight, but his wife didn't believe that. The logic, if you did it in your head straight, would be if cold brought it on, cold will make it worse. That's logic. um, there's a lot of absurdity in this world. You don't have to look too far from your little perch in Cleveland, Ohio, out into the world, but you will have to search for one thing. You will have to search far and wide for equality as a male, because you're just a slave. You're just a working machine. You're just a battery for the matrix. And in MGTOW, we don't permit those things. The MGTOW ideology and movement, and there is a movement, does not permit for illogical thinking. Well, that's my rant for today. That's my monologue, which is not much of a monologue. It was more complaint. But if we continue going down this line, we will continue having chivalrous white knights and thugs and cackling hyenas nipping at our heels and little simp dogs humping on our legs. Because one thing that you don't have as a MGTOW and you never had as a male was the right to be equal. And until we fix that, and until guys like Jordan Peterson realize that there's only two pronouns that is missing from the Equal Rights Amendment, which is the policies that guide these things, and the two words that are missing is men and boys, and you start understanding the concept of a no call, these things aren't going to change when the brightest and the best of us act like ignorant thugs. So the thug police can enforce is to force rape, forced fatherhood on males. Nothing is going to change for the females either. A matter of fact, it will get worse. Because nothing logical can be built on the illogical. No ideologies will change. And these men will continue. The divorce court system will continue. The barbaric family court systems will continue to be barbaric as long as we let it happen. And that's all I want to say today. And I hope you're having a great day. It's not a great day here. We have a snowstorm going on. Dougie's got an ear infection. There's a snowstorm going on, and it's cold. But it's okay. You know why it's okay? Because no one's yelling at me here. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to listen to an audio book. Finish up a book I was reading. I'm going to be peaceful. I'm going to have a couple cups of tea. I'm going to enjoy my sovereignty, my solitude, because I am a man that enjoys my solitude. I'm going to enjoy what I built before they take it from me again in a socialistic system of feudalism that relies on men's slavery to exist. And I'll try to do the best I can. And the only thing that really keeps me free is right here. You can put me anywhere. You can enslave me. But as long as I'm free in my head, the idea will continue that we strive for freedom, that we strive for equality, that we are not slaves, that we are not fathers. We are people, and we'll demand it. And that's it. I got a phone call. I'm going to go answer that. And thanks a lot for coming around, and thanks most of all for being MGTOW, you mighty MGTOW men.